Officers followed the cargo van through numerous streets in Durham region as the vehicle drove erratically. At Stevenson Road, the cargo van entered Highway 401, traveling in the wrong direction, traveling westbound and eastbound lanes. Shortly after, there was a multi-vehicle collision involving at least 6 vehicles. An occupant of the cargo van was pronounced deceased at the scene. 3 individuals from a civilian vehicle were also pronounced deceased at the scene. And in that vehicle were a 60-year-old, a 55-year-old, and an infant. Another individual from the collision was taken to hospital for treatment of serious injuries. At this time, the SIU has 5 investigators, 1 forensic investigator, and 1 collision reconstructionist assigned to the case. We are asking anyone with any information to share that with us by calling 1-800-787-8529 or going to our website, www.siu.on.ca, and sharing with us any photos or videos that you may have. Any questions?
Monica, the 60-year-old, 55-year-old, and infant, what's the relationship between his grandparents and a baby?
So my understanding is that in the civilian vehicle, the 60-year-old and the 55-year-old were the grandparents of the infant. So the information that I have is that it was an off-duty officer who was at the LCBO who became aware of the robbery and relayed that to Durham Regional Police Service, who then dispatched investigators to the scene. So I don't have any information about what transpired at the LCBO and what happened or what didn't happen. It's still, as you can appreciate, very early on in the investigation, and there's a lot of information we are still trying to get. I don't have that information.
Sorry, which LCBO in Clarington was this? Where did this all start? Take us back to the beginning of it.
So, as I said, it's really early in the investigation. We're still trying to understand locations, directions, things like that. All I can tell you is an LCBO in Clarington.
So you can't say Curtis or Romanville or anything like that?
No, I can't at this time, but after we get off, I can try to help you out with that.
What can you tell us about the person involved? Were they the only person in this cargo van? Were they alone at the LCBO? What was going on there?
Yeah, and I don't have that information yet either. I just know that there was an occupant in the cargo van, and an occupant from the cargo van was pronounced deceased at the scene, but who else was in the cargo van, what happened, all part of our investigation. We're asking anyone with any information to contact the SIU and try to help us piece together what transpired.
It looks like this was...
had 6 vehicles involved, so we know it's the cargo van that the suspect was in, another vehicle that had the 60-year-old, 55-year-old, and infant, another car where the driver was taken to hospital.
We're still trying to piece that together as well. I can tell you there were at least 6 vehicles. Trying to figure out, I mean, it was a really big collision scene, and we're still trying to get to the bottom of how many vehicles, how were they involved, where people were from, that type of thing.
So we know this was a police pursuit. We did see in video at least a cruiser chasing this car in the wrong direction on the highway. Can you tell us about what the protocol is around a police pursuit like this? Because obviously we know how this ended up.
Every situation is different, and as part of the SIU's investigation, we are going to look into the pursuit, when it started, where it started, what transpired, what made up the pursuit, and taking a look at policies and things like that.
The pursuit was in the wrong direction of the highway at the time. What are the protocols around that? It's extremely dangerous.
So that's something that would be a policy issue that we would be looking at as part of the SIU's investigation. Still very early stages. No, I don't have that information yet.
Did you hold the cargo van?
Yes. Yeah.
Monica, do you know how long the pursuit actually lasted? 7:50 out in Clarington. What time did the crash actually happen?
So my understanding is that the robbery call was at approximately 7:50, and I believe it was at approximately 8:10 that the collision occurred, so about 20 minutes.
And at any point...
I don't. I believe we're still trying to figure out that person's identity.
So it took 20 minutes in total that police were at least surveilling this vehicle. Do you know at any point if it was called off or if officers were asked to back off before the vehicle got onto the highway?
Still really early stages, and we'll be getting communications recordings, doing interviews to figure out what happened, when, and why.
The officers in question, was there any injuries to them, or is there any suspensions right now?
So as far as I know, there were no officers who were injured, but that would be a question for the Durham Regional Police Service, and they could confirm that to you.
Anyone suspended right now?
Not to my knowledge. That would be, again, an employment issue, and that would be a question for the police service.
Do you know, Monica, how many police vehicles were involved? We watched a few of them get towed away, but do you know how many officers were pursuing and how many vehicles, police vehicles, were actually taken from the scene?
Still don't have numbers on that either. We're in the process of making those designations, determining how many subject officers and witness officers will be designated. So hopefully I'll have that for you later on today.
Back to the robbery, was it an armed robbery? Did they get away with anything from the LCBO? Do we know any of that information?
I, as a spokesperson for the SAU, don't have that information. That might be a question for the police service.
And are Durham police allowed to say anything once the SAUs invoke their mandate?
So the Durham Regional Police Service can't speak to the SIU's investigation, which is the pursuit leading up to the multi-vehicle collision, but they can speak to what happened in the LCBO.
Monica, when it comes to police response and proportionality, a robbery call ended up in this awful situation. I guess obviously a pursuit has to meet a threshold for officers to pursue a suspect. Obviously the investigation's just starting, but does it look like it's the proportionality of the response from police is meeting the threshold for the initial call?
So the investigation is in its really early stages, and I'm not in a position to speculate on what may or may not have happened or what was or wasn't appropriate. The SIU will conduct a thorough investigation, which will involve interviews with many, many people and the examination of a lot of evidence and paperwork and policies and things like that to determine what happened and what needs to be done next. So a thorough investigation will have to take place before the director really makes any decisions.
Do you know if the family has been notified, the grandparents and the baby?
I don't know that yet.
Do you know what vehicle that they were driving, make and model?
I don't know. Hopefully as the day goes on, I'll have more information for you, but it's still really early.